today we are chatting with Lauren Leavell, who, prior to me hitting record, we've just discussed has the best name ever. I feel like it's such a strong name. You should be a movie star, Lauren. I think it's in the stars for you. And I have followed Lauren for a while now on social media, and I really resonate with her perspective on fitness. And I'm so excited to have this chat. So, Lauren, I want you to introduce yourself, just let people know what exactly you do, and just a little bit about yourself.
Oh, a pitch. All right. My name is Lauren Leavell, as you said. Yes, that's the real deal, the birth name. And I am a body positive, fat positive fitness instructor who I teach group fitness and personal training, and I focus on really intuitive and client-led training. And I also, I'm on Instagram a little bit.
You are, and everyone's going to go follow you after this episode anyway. I'm going to make sure of it. But you specialize in bar, is that right?
Yes, I am a bar instructor, so BARRE, not bar. I say bar so often and people get really excited for me to do drink things.
Yeah.
They're like very disappointed it's an exercise.
I love that. And how are you right now? I know it's been just this year is a roller coaster, and then in particular right now, I just feel things are even more intensified, and just want to know how you are and how you're looking after yourself.
I am changing every day, and I think that that's kind of like the theme of 2020 in general. I have been letting myself have a lot of feelings, both joyful feelings when they arrive and really sad and anxious ones. Yesterday was definitely a combo of that. I found myself lying on the floor, just like with my hands on my chest, trying to take some deep breaths, and my cat came up and was comforting me, and my partner came over and do you want some water? Do you want me to run to the, trying to be helpful, but sometimes you just need to ground yourself and feel a little bit sorry for yourself. So that's a little bit of how I've been doing. And then as far as being a Black woman in America, just going through the motions.
Yeah. And, I think everyone, so this podcast is coming out. We've had a brief hiatus through this kind of time. So I think, it's been a really intense time on social media. I think it's just been intense, and I think that's the only word I can use to describe it, because I think me as a white person, it's been a lot of education and a lot of listening, and it's been challenging. I'll be honest, it's been you think stuff, and then you can always be challenged, and I think that's really important. And I think there's just been, and I think rightfully so, there's been a spotlight put on Black women in particular. I don't know about you, but my feed is full of Black women, which I think is really important. And I think, when I've been discussing this with other fitness professionals and things like that, particularly in the UK, there's a real lack of diversity in general in fitness. And, that is something that, I have wanted to help change, but I've got to recognize my place in the system, and it's been it's been challenging. But I also see, and what I love about social media is it does connect us with incredible fitness professionals all over the world. I really want to come to the US, and there's so many people I want to meet, because I'm there's so many great people.
Maybe we can come to you. I don't know, it might be better if we come to you. I don't know.
I don't know if, the grass may look greener, but it's not that great.
Let's
here
all
either.
just meet somewhere else.
Let's go to Bora Bora. Let's just go to Bora Bora. Yeah. And I feel it's been a really great opportunity to, like I said, just to even though, I've followed a lot of people for a long time, but just to see people really be amplified and given the space that they deserve has just been really cool. So it's really great to reconnect and get back on with the podcast with you, because like I said, been a fan for a long time, and you know, this is great. So I thought it'd be great to start with kind of a bit of a backstory with your own fitness journey, because I know you shared online, you know, it hasn't always been easy. So I just wanted to know what your relationship with fitness was like growing up.
Yeah, I was laughing just even trying to really conjure up those feelings. I grew up in Southern California, so the weather is always warm. I was like a barefoot child for most of my life, you know. And I didn't ever participate in any like organized sports. I have like a single mom and my grandparents were helping, but it was just, you know, that wasn't like really in the cards for us both, because like I never really showed a deep interest in organized sports. And because my mom was trying to juggle a bunch of other things. But I know that my body image definitely got in the way, even as a small child, of me participating in sports activities and all of that. So moving on to like when I started working out in an actual gym, it was overwhelming. Like I was 18 years old when I started going to the gym at night with a friend. We would go in the hours where there was like the least amount of people, and we would just like do things that we thought were like exercises, which were super intuitive and really awesome looking back on it. But like we didn't really have anyone guiding us. We kind of like were those people. There's this scene in Bridesmaids at the beginning when they're just watching the boot camp from like far away. I rewatched Bridesmaids during this time, but and that was us. We were just kind of like, they look like they know what they're doing, and slowly but surely came into the world of fitness, and maybe not always from the healthiest perspective, but here we are many years later, almost 10 years later.
Do you find it really interesting when people, because I have a very similar journey, didn't get into exercise until I was literally about 18 as well. And when I see people from school, they're kind of like, oh, you know, if I say I work in fitness, you know, everyone would have thought, wow, that was like the last person I expected to
I
work
asked
in fitness.
my friend that. Yes, I have a friend from I think we met when we were 14, and she attended my virtual bar class the other day. And I messaged her the other day and said like, hey, is it weird to think that like of all the people we knew, it's me? She's like, I mean, it's 2020. There's weirder things happening. I'm like, you're right. You're right.
This is a drop in the ocean.
Yes, totally not the weirdest thing that's happened this week, for sure.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned and about like when you first started fitness, and I don't know if it was the same for you, but I went into fitness, A, copying what I saw other people do in the gym, but B, also thinking that fitness is what people did to lose weight, to change what they look like. And that was the only reason why people did it. And so that's what I had to do to be good at it, to be successful, to to be doing it quote right. And I just wondered if that was a similar experience for you.
Absolutely. The workouts that I was doing 18, 19, 20, I mean, I think about them often because sometimes I'm like, damn, where did you get the stamina, especially with what you were feeding yourself and how you were living the other like hours outside of the gym. But yeah, the workouts that we did were very punishing, they were joyful in a sense that I was with a friend, but they were not from a place of joy and from a place of love. They were definitely like, get your summer body, you know, all those like, they were a pitch. They were an ad for diet culture. So that's why I was at the gym, definitely.
And I think so many people listening relate to that, because that is, you know, I think until, well, I don't know, maybe because it's become my awareness, you know, in the last 5 years, say, but until then, like I literally, if I go to any, you know, read fitness magazines, look on blogs, go on Instagram, and if I just search hashtag Fitspo, that's what I would think fitness was. I would think, you know, it is like grueling workouts. It's got to be intense. You have to be doing HIIT, you know, every day and all this kind of stuff, because It's all about getting the results. And, you know, I always say results is code for diet culture, code for weight loss, fat loss,
Yes.
you know, manipulation. And like, it's, you know, sneaky language, but that's what the implication is. It's always about shrinking yourself in some way, shape or form, or maybe growing certain body parts kind of thing.
Yes, but the aesthetics, you know,
the aesthetics, exactly. So yeah, I think I wondered how you discovered the kind of non-diet culture space, the anti-diet message. I mean, when you first discovered diet culture, I mean, I remember discovering it, wanting to kind of write about it on social media, and it felt like a really controversial topic. It felt like it felt so different. It felt like going so against the grain. I don't know if that's how it felt for you.
I have this very interesting transition into the body positive and diet culture, anti-diet like phase that I'm in now, in that I kind of just like gently moved into this space. And I don't know how I shed those layers over time. I know that like the true weight of adulthood, you know, graduating from university, like having to get a real job, all those things put the diet and exercise kind of into perspective. I thought to myself, like, you need to focus your energy elsewhere. And so those things that have been occupying so much space in your mind, they can't occupy that space anymore. You have to do something else. So slowly I just was like, okay, well, you know, taking time away from the meal preps and the grueling workouts and the very regimented routine that I created when I had the flexibility in my schedule because I was just a student, right? Then you get a job where you're in an office, like we talked about before we started, but like we're in an office for 8 hours. And so when is it that am I doing push-ups at my desk? Like, I know some people do, but like I wasn't. And so that was part of my journey out of that mindset. And then it was aided by the fact that I found myself in this community with so many amazing and beautiful and responsible humans who were kind of encouraging me to come on the other side of that and just be like questioning all those things that we talk about in diet culture. Like, why are we, you know, worried about eating a piece of cake or a donut? Like, why? Just keep asking you why. And then you're like, I don't know why. That does seem like a waste of time. And then of course with social media, changing who I was following, changing who I was interacting with, or seeing people in all types of bodies being beautiful, healthy, happy, excited, all those things really changed my perspective.
And did you find like finding a community on social media has been that transitional education from like that kind of like one set way of thinking to kind of maybe just even initially just being more open-minded to thinking like, oh, there might be another way to do this. Like maybe I don't have to beat myself up every time I go to the gym. You know, maybe I don't have to like, you know, feel guilty about eating food.
Absolutely. I think social media was great for that. It was great for the education aspect, even though the thing about everything is like, you know, it's the tip of the iceberg. Like the education that you're going to get on social media can be wonderful, great, amazing education. But if you don't pursue that further, maybe all you have is a social media education. Like, I don't think we can learn neuroscience from following like a neuroscience Instagram. Like, I think we would need to do more. But I definitely was one of those people who was using body positivity while I was still pursuing changing my body and like not really getting how and where those things met. So I needed further education outside of my Instagram circle to really get a grip on what that meant, how that movement really worked, what fat positivity meant, what it meant to be weight neutral, all those things. I needed to look a little bit outside of Instagram. But as far as creating my first initial baby community, yes, it was amazing.
And I think some people were listening like might not even know what some of those terms mean. So I would really love to know, like, because my previous episode to this was a discussion around thin privilege and body positivity. And so if you haven't listened to that episode, I really suggest listening to that episode, because I think we're going to touch on it here. I would love to know what body positivity means to you, you know, and how you saw it when you first discovered it, and what that was, what, you know, what it was then versus how it is your understanding of what the movement is now.
Yeah, I think that a lot of times, like body positivity with positive body image. So, and I know that that's like a thing, you know, there's a lot of literature out there on that, which positive body image would just be how I look. And so my body positive, when I was still in the midst of trying to change my body and disordered eating and all of that, was really like, well, yeah, I like the way I look right now. And also I'm still this improved aesthetic. And I think that when we look at the roots of body positivity, which really come from fat positivity, which is more like fat acceptance, liberation, bodies of all shapes, sizes, genders being accepted and being respected societally, that's much different than just saying like, I like me. Like, it's so much bigger than just me. It's for everyone. It's for someone's ability to be hired. It's for someone's ability to have access to healthcare, all the way from fertility treatment to basic needs being met by our healthcare system. It's about respect and everyone's body being seen as viable and as human at this point. So I think that there's definitely been a transition from you can have both. You can have I like me, and I also want to uphold and help others have access to the systems that I have access to. But I just think it's so much bigger than that little hashtag and a very cute picture of yourself.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I get called a body positive trainer all the time, and I'm very careful. I've never ever labeled myself a body positive trainer. I'm very aware of my like place within that, and I support body positivity. You know, but I, you know, conscious of like not taking up space in something that, you know, wasn't designed for me. You know, wasn't founded by people who look like me, and I think it's really important, I think, to clarify that point of I think where people do just automatically say she's a body positive trainer is because we do just think it is about feeling positive about your body. And, you know, and I don't think if you initially come to this and you think that's anyone's fault. I think that's the narrative that's been driven in, you know, articles and social media. Yes. And it's, you know, if you're looking at it on a surface level, it so looks like that's what it is. Like but I think as much as a part of it can be for individuals like embracing their body, accepting themselves, it is also about accepting others and uplifting other people and making sure that everyone gets that equal treatment, equal respect aspect. And yeah, I think kind of understanding the difference is challenging, and it's really interesting. There's so much conversation right now about privilege in general, and I find it really interesting because I really think it does all the different privileges we hold, and like, you know, there's times where we can feel defensive about those privileges. It's really interesting how, you know, people saying all lives matter, well, and then people saying in body positivity all bodies matter, and I think there's very similar pushback in a sense to these things when we're kind of discussing that privilege. And I think I think it's really important, like you said, just to clarify it. And you know, we want people to feel good about themselves though. We want people to say, yeah, I like myself, because I'm also of the mindset, and I think you encapsulated this brilliantly within a post that you shared online, so we'll discuss it. But I do think that when you start to accept yourself and when you have done that work on yourself, it is a big stepping stone in helping you to be aware of what's going on for other people. And a lot of that healing and that work on, you know, accepting who you are and enjoying those things, I think has to be done in a sense of to be like to listen to other people and to be, you know, open to hearing people's stories and experiences, and being open to that. So you posted a quote recently and you said, well, it's your quote. Diet culture is a stumbling block for social justice. It is hard to do this work if you're solely focused on shrinking yourself. So I want to know the thought process behind that tweet, and yeah, kind of how that's really applied for you.
Yeah, that tweet was inspired by a conversation that I was having with my dear friend Asher of Non-Normative Body Club. Asher is one of the kindest and most inspiring people I know and come into contact with. They are located in Philly, but they just have this way about them of creating a space for other people to really come into themselves, I believe. So I was having a conversation and wondering to myself why this time these social justice movements were hitting me so hard. Like, Black people in the United States, elsewhere, have been being killed by police, have been like filmed being killed by police in the past. And I mean, as much as I engaged with that content, I choose not to really actively engage with that kind of trauma online. I don't think it's appropriate, but I mean, that trauma is still in my body. I know what happened. I just couldn't imagine like why I wasn't feeling so enraged the other times. And then I realized like, oh, because I was obsessed with myself. Like, I was so obsessed with me and what I was doing and what I was eating and what I wasn't eating and how I was working out and what size pants I was wearing, that I literally could not see past my own body and think about people being killed. Being killed. And it blew my own mind how irresponsible that felt and how shallow it felt. And I knew that would definitely resonate with so many other people who are either still in that or on the very edge of coming out of that and being like, where do I put my energy? Where do I put my energy? How can I use this energy? How can I use these feelings somewhere else? Because if you have the energy and the time to dedicate to regimented food and regimented exercise, you have a gift for energy and time that you can give to other things, including social justice movements.
And I wonder, do you think maybe that focus on food and exercise was part of maybe a subconscious thing that maybe your brain did to kind of protect you and to it does distract you, but distract you from the difficult stuff, from reality, you know, from
Absolutely.
realities.
Yeah, I've talked about this before, but I think my real obsession and desire to be in a smaller body or in a different body in general was to increase my proximity to whiteness. My family is, I'm mixed. I present as a Black woman, but my mother is a white woman. My grandmother, and these are the women who are raising me. My cousins are all white. My closest cousin has hair that's blonder than yours, and she's just this very quintessential California girl. And I wanted to be like that so bad. And part of that was from a personal experience of that being my family and, you know, really looking up to your family and wanting to be closer to them. But also part of that is a mechanism of protection, because we do know that people in bigger bodies are treated different. Like, we do know that people in Black bodies are treated different. So the combination of that, I just wanted to continue shrinking to be less noticeable in the body that I am in. Like, I wanted to be the least amount on anybody's radar as a form of protection.
And I think, yeah, I think that's really important for people to understand. I think that's really, um, yeah, I don't think I really have anything to say. I think I'm just like, yeah, like that's part of it. And I think that's why I think particularly recently we're kind of having this conversation around like we can't talk about diet culture and its influence without talking about how it does have its links with white supremacy and how that manifests itself for different people and why we all want to be thin. And yeah, I think this is a much bigger conversation, but I think yeah, it's really interesting to hear your perspective on that and to hear your story. So thank you for sharing that with us. I think we appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, every time I share it, I feel like I'm like a little bit closer to understanding it myself. So
Yeah, and yeah. Um, and in general, like how, so where fitness has probably maybe been, like you said, that a way to protect yourself in in different forms. Do you feel like understanding what diet culture is, finding out about having an intuitive relationship with fitness? Am I right in saying that do you practice intuitive eating as well?
yeah, I do. So jokingly, but before this, yeah, my partner made like 36 chocolate chip cookies before like 9:30 a.m. here, which in past would have been, you know, something that could have sent me over the edge as like a very triggering experience. And it's just funny to think that like by the time we hopped on this call, there were like dozens of cookies overflowing in our kitchen, and that's fine because like that's okay. It's a cookie. It's not gonna, you know, it's not a weapon. But I think that intuitive eating has been part of my journey, and I think they've evolved hand in hand. I think maybe the fitness aspect was a little bit easier for me to grasp than the food aspect.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I don't talk a ton about my diet. I mean, I love to cook. I love to cook, love to eat. I love trying everybody else's food. I'll go to someone's house and try their mom's food, like whatever. Like I love the culture and community around food. But during my recovery, exercise definitely was an easier transition for me. I have never stopped exercising since I started. I just changed my relationship with it while I was in it, but food definitely had to be a little bit more actively engaging with that intuitive work and thinking to myself, you know, where are these thoughts coming from? Where are these feelings coming from? And I still work on it every day. I mean, I truly work on it every day. We eat every day and I work on it every day.
And I think the misconception with intuitive eating and then, you know, in connection intuitive movement is that it's like, right, I do it, I read the book, I tick the boxes, and then I'm done, right? Like that's it, course completed, I've figured it out.
We're
and
good.
Right, yeah. And it is an ongoing process. It is an ongoing journey of self-reflection. I'd be really curious to hear how you have found lockdown, and how that's has that made you think about your relationship with exercise? I'm saying this because it's made me question things. So I just wondered if, even though I think, you know, I've done a ton of work and things are great, I'm like, oh, there's things still coming up for me, you know, years later. And I just wondered if that's been the case for you.
I have stayed so incredibly busy during this time, which is, you know, a symptom and a thing that we can talk about in an entirely different podcast about Lauren Leavell, the workaholic. But I love my job. I love the community that I serve. I love moving with people and helping people move their body so much so that my investment in my movement practice hasn't changed a ton since we've been in lockdown. It changed forms, it changed places. Like I am jumping around in my very small bedroom now, as opposed to in a studio. Like I lost a bar, so I use a chair, all the things that have kind of, you know, shifted. But for me, my feelings about my movement practice, if anything, have had to become more intuitive, because I have to take care of myself. And if I didn't have those check-ins with myself, I might run myself into the ground. And I know some people are it seems like it's one way or the other, where I have people coming to me with a lot of guilt, like I haven't worked out in 3 months. And I'm like, okay. Like, I mean, I don't want to sound like blasé about them not working out in 3 months. I mean more that, like, that is so not on the front of the list, like the top of the list of things to do. Working out is so far down compared to just being safe, taking care of your family, taking care of yourself. So I think that there's those people, or there's the people who are booking multiple classes a day because they just don't know what to do with their energy. They don't want to stop moving. They're afraid if they stop moving, what will happen to them. So I think we're seeing it play out in that way. I'm somewhere in between, where I'm like, some days I'm just teaching my classes and I'm not doing my own workout. If I can squeeze my own workout in, it's usually no longer than 30 minutes. And it's practice for something that we're doing in class, or something that I want to fine tune for myself. It's never too grueling, too punishing. It's more just something that comes over me and I feel like I need to do.
I found that really interesting, what you're saying about people who are drawn to keep exercising. And I kind of wanted to finish your sentence and be like, I think for some people, it can be a case of, if I don't stop exercising, I'll have to start feeling. And I think that's scary. And I think it can feel like a lot. And I think my experience of lockdown has definitely been, I stopped exercising and I started feeling, and it's just been like, it's been a roller coaster. And I mean, this is all stuff that's going on for me anyway, let alone what else is going on in the world. Like, you know, it's been a lot. And so I really empathize with people who, you know, have either struggled to find motivation, because it's like, you know, everything's so up in the air, and, you know,
it feels so trivial to try to think about that if it doesn't come naturally. And I think that's what a lot of people were like, well, I need to start exercising because now I can't, you know, walk to my car, park my car, and walk to my office. Like, I've eliminated everything I've been doing, so I better start exercising. And I'm like, like, it doesn't have to be so organized or so serious.
It can be intuitive.
Yes, just be carrying stuff upstairs. Like, things change, you gotta adapt.
And I think that's a really important point to make about intuitive movement. And, you know, I think some people, I think there's a bit of a spectrum of intuitive movement, and I think it can be like literally doing whatever you want to do, however you want to do it, and that's fantastic. And I also think there's partly where other people really thrive off having routine and structure and doing those things. And that's not to say that isn't intuitive. It really is all about the intention behind that structure. And, you know, also knowing you're going into it being like, okay, if I want to stop at any point, I can. If I want to have a rest day at any point, I can. You know, there is flexibility within this, and I can go with the flow. I can make this work. I'm not trying to make myself work for a schedule. I'm making this schedule work for me. I'm making this routine work for me. And I think that's a really important, important differentiation between those two things. But I would be interested in how you, as an instructor, because we had Van Haas on the podcast. I know you follow Van Haas online. And we have been friends for years, because I met her on the first day of my personal training job. So one of the first people I ever met. And we were talking about, we both also teach for the same studio, teaching spin classes, and we were talking about how we encourage people to be intuitive, even in a class situation when there is structure. Obviously there's structure to a class, we're not going in there just doing, you know what I mean, everything and random, you know, plucking random things from the air. You know, we've gone in with intention. So I
Yes.
just wondered how you're encouraging that intuition in class, and kind of what that sounds like, how that works for you.
Yeah, I think I have a little bit of an advantage just because I'm not teaching spin. So most of my work, well, I mean, you know, like spin can be hard. I know you can change the amount, you know, like all, here's how much I know about spin. I know you can change things on the bike. You can go faster or slower. No,
well, don't ask me about my bar knowledge though, so we're fine.
So for the workouts that I'm doing, they're primarily body weight based, or, you know, the body is the machine that we're using. And I like to start, especially now on Zoom, because I've had so many new people join me, by saying they don't need to turn their camera on. If they don't want to, they're free to keep their video off. I would love to see them, but they don't have to be seen if they don't feel like being seen today. If they feel like turning their camera off in the middle of class, they're allowed to do that. If they feel like turning it on in the middle of class, they're allowed to do that. So that's kind of how I start every class. And then moving forward through class, I provide variations, and I mean modifications, variations, and I vary the way that I provide them. So I will start with one version of it, and maybe that's a plank in tabletop. We all start with plank and tabletop, and then we work our way into different planks, just knowing that you can always return to hands on the floor, knees on the floor. Totally fine to return there. So I think for me as an instructor, it's always giving people, number one, the permission to do whatever the hell they want. Like if they came there to listen and hang out with me and they decided that they wanted to do jumping jacks instead of any other thing that I was giving them, they are free to do jumping jacks for 45 minutes if that's what they really, really, truly want to do. But that kind of permission. And then secondly, I would say just providing those cues throughout class to listen, cues to where I'm feeling it in my body. And I always say, like, I'm feeling this in the front of my legs. I'm feeling this in my glutes. I'm feeling this in my shoulders. Just to kind of give people a check-in, for them to be like, she's feeling it in her shoulders. Like, I'm feeling this in my ankles. Like, what am I doing? And try to lead people to think like how they are posturing themselves, how they're moving and everything like that, to give them the best experience on their own, because I'm not there in person to adjust them. Number one, in person, I will do everything until I, you know, I would say, okay, do you want me to move your shoulders down for you? But I really feel like cueing people with words and with mimicking them will help them more, because if you feel your shoulders move down, it's easier than me going and pushing them down. So yeah, I think just telling them they could do what they want at the very beginning of class, which I think people are kind of blown away by. Just like, what? I'm like, yeah, you really don't have to listen to me. Number two, giving people plenty of variations. And then number three, really just talking about how it feels in my body, and really giving them permission to name where they feel it in their body, and maybe saying like, okay, maybe if it's your lower back, it's your neck, maybe we do something else. But otherwise, like, okay, everybody's different. Maybe you do feel it in your glutes.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important part of intuitive movement, is about getting people to learn how to feel that, literally be in their body. You know, get people to be like, oh, what does it feel like when I'm engaging my core? What does it feel like when my lats are engaged? How does it feel when, you know, when I'm in a squat? What are those physical sensations? So not only do you know what it feels like when you're doing it in a way that's right for you, but also you know when you're doing it in a way that's not right for you, you know, that's not feeling good. And it's about encouraging that connection, because I think where kind of we fail in fitness is we try to, trainers pitch ourselves as the expert of people's bodies, and, you know, I know your body better than you, and you can't be tired, you've got to do 10 more, you know, you're doing press ups, you need to do 5 more reps, like you can't be tired now. When I think it's about as you kind of have said, is like giving that client, giving that person in your class permission to listen to their body and trust it. It literally is about that trust. And, you know, I have been in, I don't know, I've seen a lot in my career in terms of like how being in classes myself. And it's really interesting how, like, I think a lot of times, the trainer, like I said, does feel like the expert is the authority. And I think, you know, we need to be really careful of that. And whilst I think it's important that we have respect, the dynamic of respect, but it's important to say, like, you know, ultimately, you know yourself best. So keep, you know, I always encourage, particularly with one-on-one people, not in a whole class, that'd be a lot, but feedback, like, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? What does it feel like? Where's your energy at? What do you, and, you know, keeping that dialogue open so that a person can do that. And I think you don't, and sometimes you don't even need a trainer to do that. I think you could do that with yourself. You could just keep checking in when you're doing your workouts and be like, hey, how do I feel now? You know, am I tired? Am I energized? Am I tired, but I could actually push a little bit more? Like, is there a bit more in the tank? Maybe there actually is. And, you know, you can have this little dialogue going on.
I mean, I do that. I do that all the time. And I think that it goes back to kind of what you were saying about feeling, because I think that the people who are primarily using exercise to avoid those feelings are the same people who are going to the classes with the trainers who are discouraging them from having any individual feelings.
Oh, you've hit a nail on the head there. I had not put those two and two together, and I think that's really clear.
Yes, because I've been to classes, like you said, we've both been to a lot of classes. And I've been to classes where people are throwing their bodies around, just like throwing them. And I mean, as a spin instructor, I went to, I think that's part of the reason that there's so many reasons that I am not a frequent spinner. One, my butt hurts. But I think that going to a spin class that I went to, I saw so many people who were definitely into it. You know, they were into it. They had the gear, they were there, they were in the front. But when I saw them through my trainer eyes, I saw their core's not engaged. I saw their shoulders rolling so far forward that posture couldn't have been truly comfortable and safe for them to be going at the speed they were going. And all the things that go through your head, you know, when you kind of know a little bit better, where you're just like, that probably doesn't feel that great. Or I've been to classes where people are throwing their arms just like kind of like this, and I'm thinking, well, you're here to be engaged, right? But they quite literally are physically not engaged and mentally not engaged in that workout. They're just there to drown out whatever they're avoiding with that 45 minutes.
Yeah. And I also would love to know your thoughts on how fitness trackers play into that sense of distraction. I think, because I think for people who are, here's my little spiel on it, because I think I don't think fitness trackers are inherently evil, but I do think, once again, it's about intention. And secondly, you got to be able to take it off. You've got to be able to take breaks from it, and that's getting to a healthy place with it. But also, I don't know about you, but I've taught loads of classes where people are fiddling around with these watches and they miss half the class. They're not only are they missing half the class because they're too busy seeing how many calories they burned. That need to quantify the workout
for good or bad,
is not letting you be in your body. You're not actually, it's like you're not experiencing it to be in your body. You're experiencing it for validation. And I think that's what I see it. That's how diet culture has taken this piece of technology and said, I know what to do with this. Because like, they can be great. I like, if you're training for like long distance running and stuff, I imagine it's very useful to like know your pace and be able, you know, it can be really useful. But I do think that's where diet culture swooped in and was like, I got this tech.
Gotcha.
and I'm going to use it. And like, I know how, I know how to make people feel reliant on this.
Yes.
Because, because you couldn't possibly know your body. That's the thing. We've been talking about this element of trust. Diet culture's whole MO is to be like, you can't trust yourself. You can't do this yourself. You need me. You need my tools. You need my technology. You need my trainers. You need my weight loss products, because you couldn't possibly do this on your own. And when we're coming at it from an intuitive perspective, it's to say like, no, you are more than capable of doing it on your own. And actually those things have been distracting you and also helping you to not feel like this is fun and enjoyable.
Yes, I don't know if you're referencing or know about my post about the fitness tracker thing. I don't know if we.
I did see it. So you can chat about it. Go for it.
Yeah, I've had those frustrating experiences. One of my love languages is getting pictures of people and or in real life, like seeing people's glow after a workout, right? So I love getting sweaty selfies after a workout now that we're virtual. In real life, I love seeing people just like on their mat, continuing to stretch after, just being like, we're done. And I can't stand seeing people's fitness tracker pictures. I love you so much, and I'm really happy that you think that your fitness tracker is telling you that you had a good workout, but like, did you have a good workout or not? You don't need a watch to tell you that. And full disclosure, I am wearing a fitness tracker, and I do use a fitness tracker, but that's after 3 years of not wearing anything at all. And this fitness tracker has no face on it. You can't see any responses. You can't see heart rate, calories, strain, any of that on this. You have to go onto your phone to see it. And so it's not constantly disrupting you. It never tells me that I need to take more steps. It never tells me any of those things, which is why I went with this tracker, and I can send you information on it if you would like to put it in there. But
yeah, I think it sounds really interesting, because I think literally just having that on your wrist, like that constant looking at it, checking it, and if you're able to, like, you can use it, but you can be present in your body in the moment. I think that's really
so
important.
I went with this tracker because the platform that it's on encourages recovery and rest. Like, so it really talks equally about your workouts and your sleep. And to me, as someone who is working out for a living and moving my body, like I said, I actually have to be intuitive about taking breaks as opposed to like the other way around. I wanted something to tell me like, hey friend, like, you kind of sleep like trash. Can you get your sleep schedule in order? Which of course I have not. But in
Good intentions.
Later on I might. I've only been wearing it for a little bit, but I think that this is the reason that I went with this tracker. And I have a couple of non-diet dietitian friends who this is the tracker that for athletes and for people who are working with their body frequently, they would encourage, as opposed to something being ding, 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 you did not get your 10,000 steps. Like, what does that mean? And also, like, who made that up? And also, like, why?
Well, I did a bit of research around this. Did you know the 10,000 steps goal came from a Japanese company, because they created basically the first pedometer, and they were like, how can we market this? How can we get people to get interest? And they're like, I know, they have to walk 10,000 steps a day. And they just literally pulled this number out of nowhere as a marketing gimmick. And actually the kind of evidence says, I think up to about, once you kind of get about 7,000-ish steps, there's not really any difference if you do 7,000 or 10,000 in terms of benefit on your body, which is interesting. In terms of the benefits.
And we even knowing that with the research, we haven't brought it down to 7,000, because 10,000 is an easier number, or it's because we continue encouraging people to push themselves or to get into the zone or to all the things that happen when you feel like you need to take 10,000 steps.
And it's And once again, I think that number is arbitrary, and that is outsourcing something. You know, you could walk 9,950 steps and probably feel great. And I think the thing with that number, and the it's when it invokes feelings of guilt and shame, and you find yourself running up and down the stairs to close your rings, and that's the kind of place when it's like, okay, let's assess the relationship with this thing. If something's making you feeling guilty and it's making you feel anxious about, like, you know, I mean, especially right now, it's really hard to
safely walk 10,000 steps.
Yeah, get those steps in. And I think, yeah, it's just being really curious with yourself and your motivations and your reasons, and also, like, you know, we're talking a lot about feeling today in general, right? And how does it make you feel? Like, how does it make you feel to have a watch tell you, like, oh, you need to get up and move? Do you suddenly start feeling, oh no, I sat down for too long again, I'm so lazy? You know, is it making you have this internal dialogue with yourself? And I think, yeah, I mean, like I said, not inherently bad, but there needs to be just a lot of questions asked when using it. And yeah, I'm sure I might get some messages about this, so I will ask you to, maybe you can send me the details and I can put it in the show notes for the podcast.
Yes. I'm naturally pretty nerdy, so that was the other reason that I kind of like.
Are you like a data-driven person? Are you like a?
I do. I went to school and I specialized in like data mapping and, you know, all those things where you see like the parts of the map. Oh, yes, love that. So of course I love some numbers, but I had to take some time back and realize that those numbers, what do they mean? And also even looking at the numbers that are coming from this data, what do they actually mean still? Do I believe them still? Do I, you know, how beholden am I to the fact that like this day was a very hard day versus a very not hard day? The only numbers I really care about on this thing are my sleep. Like, I'm really interested in seeing how my sleep is tracked. And also I've been tracking it kind of on my own, right? Like, I know that I got up to feed the cat and get a glass of water at 3 a.m. I know that. Does my data show that? Or does it show that I'm still asleep? Like, how sensitive is it? All these things that kind of are experimental and happening because we've been inside for 3 months.
Yeah.
That like maybe I don't normally have time for, but still, again, really focusing on me as an individual. There's none of that like compete with a team to get to 10,000 steps kind of thing. And I think focusing on really like how I feel in my body, and can I align that with this piece of technology to really become advantageous to me, to plan my workouts, to plan my hikes, to plan you know, how much water I plan on drinking in a day. Do I sleep better when I eat later or earlier? All those things that are like super nerdy, I've been into, but I don't think that I don't think about this at all until it's like the battery's almost dead and I'm like, oh no. But it doesn't, like I said, I just don't interact with it. It's more like a hairband on my wrist because it's just here, a black band.
Well, I would love to hear, like, I don't know, even, you know, once you've used it for like a while, like a review on it, just to see like your findings. Like, do you think it's accurate? Do you think, I don't think that would be interesting. Something I would personally, can I make a request?
Yeah. I have an initial review, and I've actually been, I've been talking with and working with the company to make it more for the everyday user, less for the intense athlete. So how can your everyday person, how can people like us, people who are taking our classes, really use this technology in a way that moves them away from that obsession with things outside of their body? And I think that that's really the most important part of using any kind of fitness technology, even if it's a tool, like if you're, or if you're using a watch, like how are you using that for yourself as an individual?
Definitely. Now, I wanted to talk to you about your perceptions, because you spoke about early on in your fitness journey, you were like doing much more grueling, intense workouts and like things have changed. And I wanted to know if you used to perceive exercise as good and bad, because like, you know, when we talk about intuitive eating, we talk about well, Laura Thomas, she talks about having a shit list of foods that you have and you don't eat them and, you know, they're not okay. And we all have this thing where like the list of food that we don't, you know, it's quote bad food, and you know, learning to neutralize that and realize it's not good or bad, it's just food. Can I ask if you ever had that with exercise? Because I need to be honest, my on my shit list of exercise was bar for a long time. So I apologize for that, because
it doesn't surprise me.
You know, I was kind of like, I'm not sweating. I mean, it was same with like yoga, Pilates, anything that was like not hardcore gym. I was like, yeah, I'm just not sweating enough. I'm not, you know, my watch didn't tell me it burned enough calories, and, you know, and I was like, perceived it to not be the best use of my time.
Totally.
However, I now have a new appreciation for all these things, because it's not I no longer train for like what's, you know, for the best results. I train for like what's best for my mind and my body, and all those things can be great for your mind and body. So I would wonder if you what was on your kind of good and bad list, and how that is different now.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about how like I have always had this horrible relationship with cardio exercises because I just don't think they're fun, but I was still doing a ton of them because that's how it works, right? Like you got to do that cardio to shred. And so I think that cardio in general, but I will say like running and spin were on my list of good exercises, and I never liked them. I hated them so much. And then something like Pilates, I remember the first couple Pilates classes I went to, which wasn't that long ago, but even still I was like, this is kind of boring.
Because it's not so dynamic. It's like, it's a
right,
lot more about like feeling your core and like all these little things.
Right. And also that, you know, typically you're not doing, there are some Pilates like with the mega formers and all those that you're doing them in like a dark room with the loud music, which is kind of like sometimes how I like to get my exercise outside of my own routine, because I just kind of like to have a party. But it was like a very quiet scenario in Pilates, and I was like, oh, this is very quiet. Oh, I don't know if I like this. And that kind of has always been evolving based on like where I am. And I see the value in so many different forms of exercise that even running that I don't like necessarily. I can go for a run without feeling like it needs to be fast. I can go for a run without feeling like I need to run for 10 minutes straight or whatever it is. And I think changing your interpretation of like how you do the exercise can change how you feel about the entire thing all at once. Like it's good for me to go for a run to remind myself like how I feel when I'm running, you know, how my posture feels, how my feet feel, are my shoes comfortable, all the little things that like maybe you don't think about when you're just like, oh, gotta beat this time, gotta do all that stuff. So that's been important for me as far as like good and bad exercises. And then, yeah, how I can work them into my practice with my clients, how I can relate to my clients, because if my client is a runner and I'm like, dude, I don't run, I don't know, I've never run in my life, then, you know, it's hard to relate to them in that way, but really kind of embarking on like a little jog, just to be like, oh yeah, this is how, these are the muscles that they're probably really working. These are the muscles we should work on, or here's the posture moves we should be doing. All those things kind of make it a little bit less, you know, terrible.
And I think like, yeah, it's like you're allowed to, I think with intuitive movement as well, like you're allowed to like not like certain things, but it's like, whether you're classifying them as like, oh, this is the good thing to do because, you know, it's going to like make me smaller, or is a good thing to do because, you know, I've been running in lockdown because it's one of my lowest forms of cardio that I like to do, but all my other options are not available to me right now.
Yeah.
So it's the bottom of my list, but I'm having to like settle. And you know, I haven't hated it. I don't love it. I don't wake up, you know, bouncing out my front door like, come on, let's go. I'm very much like, right, I'm gonna go do it. And sometimes it has been great to just like get that freedom. But yeah, like I don't love it, but I respect it.
Yeah, my
I don't love
partner
it.
is definitely like a cardio person. And
Same.
so
Oh my God.
I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
Every few days, it's like, do you want to go out for a run? And I'm like, still no. It's
Yeah.
still a no.
Yeah.
Do you want to go for a bike ride? I'm like, I don't have a bike. I'm not going to borrow one. I'm not going to buy one. This is not the time for me to get into bike riding. I grew up, like I said, in Southern California. I'll get on a beach cruiser and go very slow. But like, we're not going trail biking. That sounds horrible.
Did you ever, I don't know if this is a California thing, but I love TikTok, and I say this probably in every episode, and I always do a TikTok reference at some point, but it's really cool on TikTok to rollerblade.
Oh my gosh. I saw one recently with a person doing like very
It's
choreographed.
very cool. Oh, but they're always like going down the street, but they're like, it's very cool, and they just look effortlessly cool. And
I
I'm
would
like,
bust my face open.
oh, same. But I was gonna say, was that because, yeah, we had like rollerblading when we were kids, but I was like, that is a great form of movement. Like, what a cool thing to go and do. Like, that is, you know, what a fun form of movement. Like, that's amazing. I wondered if it's something they did, because you said you were by the beach, and I just imagine people going down like the like boardwalk area, like rollerblading in my mind.
Yeah, no, I think bike riding and skating have always been like things that people do along the beach. They're having a for sure revival right now, everywhere in Philly too. And we're not at the beach, but I've definitely seen more people rollerblading and skating.
Yeah.
And you know, they ice skate here in Philly too. Again, not for me. Not for me.
I mean, I'd love to do it, but I'm like I get a bit nervous about things and hurting myself. But yeah.
Oh yeah, my partner is the one who like is on a skateboard, and I don't know if he knows how to skate. Like all the things like that I'm afraid of, he's right in there.
Yeah, same. Yeah, and it's so ironic because my boyfriend's like very naturally sporty his whole life, just naturally takes to any form of like athleticism, just as good at everything. I've really had to I got good at a couple of things, spin being one of them. I like to swim as well. That's another one I like to do. I had swimming lessons last year, and all these things are closed. I can't access them. It's really sad. But it has been interesting in realizing, I think, how do I like to move my body when those things are taken away from me, and how can I adapt? And it's been hard. Like, I wasn't like, woke up, great, got a new routine, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I was like, no, I genuinely do really miss those things. And I realized that they actually bring me a lot of joy. And I also realize I need space outside of my flat. I need to get out.
Yes.
To have that, especially when you're working at home. I just need to have that separation a bit. But it's an interesting time to be an intuitive mover, because you're kind of like, I think for some people have like got really in the groove of it and like, I've got so much more free time, I can do this. But I think some of us, me included, have slowed down a lot and are like, oh, I need to come up, what's happening? When am I going to get back to my routine?
Yeah. I think that there's definitely a period of mourning for the routines that we had. I mean, so much more outside of fitness, but if we're just focusing on fitness and movement, there's definitely some mourning involved. Like, we had to adjust and change. And for some of the people, I think, who are coming back into movement, who are just started moving with me, that's why they have this confession, like, I haven't moved in 3 months. And I'm like, okay, but I think that that's more of a period of time where they were just maybe mourning that routine that they had established and started to love. And like, I really loved this one teacher, and now they're not teaching there anymore, or they're not teaching online, or the times don't work. All the things that kind of have had to change can be really sad, especially when you're in recovery, and maybe just on the other side of it. Maybe you just found a teacher you liked, or maybe you just found something you liked, and then it was taken away from you. That's a hard coping mechanism and like new life mechanism to lose. And so I think that that's why I've had so many like email confessions. Like, I haven't moved in 3 months. I'm like, it's okay. I'm sure you've moved in 3 months.
Yeah. I'm sure you've not literally sat still for 3 months. I'm sure.
If you have, very talented, wondering how you've done it. But I think that people had to adjust, and some people it took a little longer. For me, getting my movement and exercises up online really was me working like for 36 hours straight, pretty much, like with very little sleep in between, converting my classes to being virtually appropriate, converting my website to be able to have people log onto it. And I think Scott was like, are you ever gonna eat or rest again? And I was like, yeah, sure, just let me get these emails out. And it happened very quickly for me. So then within that week I was able to start. But I know some trainers who were just like you were saying, like, what can we do, and who really needed the break. Honestly, they needed the break. And whether or not it was for a good or bad reason, they needed the break. And I think it was really, really important for them to take that time away. So it's been really nice to see my friends thriving in a different way than they maybe thought they were going to.
Yeah, definitely. And I do think there's an expectation on fitness professionals that we're all superhuman and we just keep going and we never stop and we never, we never take a break.
Yeah, we never feel bad.
No, and actually I think, it's really important to acknowledge that, no, we absolutely are human, and, we're absolutely living through the same time that everyone else is, right? We're trying to deal with the same thing that everyone else is and trying to navigate our way through. And yeah, it's been interesting. It has been interesting. And having to adapt to that, and finding ways to do things differently and not in your usual setting and usual environments that are the comfort zones. They are the familiar things that
And the studio can make you feel like a certain way, like that when you walk in, like, see all the bikes, you're like, it's time to rock. But now you're just looking at your shoes, like, I guess I'll go outside.
Yep. Awesome. So I feel like we should finish this with asking then recently. So obviously we've been talking about intuitive movement, and with the book being called Train Happy and the podcast being called Train Happy, I like to get people to think about their Train Happy moment, which is really about the time that they honored their body, whether that be through rest or exercise or whatever it was. It can be a multitude of things, but really like how you like recently, was there a time recently when you listened to your body and honored that? And I just wondered what your most recent Train Happy moment was.
Yes. I'm in Philadelphia, as I mentioned. So it is getting very hot and very humid. It's here. It's hot and humid. And I was kind of thinking about doing a workout. I was looking around thinking about it, and I actually was able to make it outside in my little yard space and do a solo workout completely free from distractions, even though it was sweaty, even though it was, very hot out. And I think that it was my Train Happy moment because I took as many breaks as I wanted, and I didn't have anyone watching me, and I just kind of played in the backyard. In very few terms, I was playing, and I was doing movements that felt really great with no, like, I need to do 3 sets. No, I was just like, I'm going to do 4 of these and 3 of those and sit down and drink some water and then get back up and do it again. So I think that spending that time alone and moving my body strictly for me, for no one watching, not for a picture on Instagram, not for anything at all besides just being in my backyard and having a summer moment, has been like my train happy moment as of lately.
I love that. And I just want to pick up on what you're saying about not taking a photo for it and not necessarily sharing it. And I think, I wondered, I kind of had to start working out for myself and only myself and not sharing it, because I realized that, that was part of I don't know, I don't have to prove myself to anyone. I think just like that mental, like, I need to prove myself to anyone, but also, I'm aware of my online presence, and I also don't want to feel like people feel like, oh, she's working out all the time, I have to work out all the time. And I'm really conscious of just like letting people do their own thing and just knowing that this is a fitness space, but you do you, and I just wondered what your thoughts were behind not sharing it, because those are mine.
I have a little bit of sometimes insecurity about not sharing more workouts, because I'm thinking, oh, is this what the people want? Is this what people want from me? Do they want to see me demoing more moves, me doing this, me doing that? And I have to keep some of those things for myself. Just like I don't share all of my food, I don't feel like it's responsible to share all of my workouts. Number one, because you're able to come to class with me if you really want to, and we can work out together. And number two, because like you said, I personally love seeing my friends in their movement elements and all of that. And I'm in a place where I could be in bed watching you work out and I wouldn't feel bad about it. But maybe someone else does. And I don't want that to be something that is the motivation for them to get up and move necessarily. Like, if it's just like, oh no, here it is, I need to post mine, or, all of that. And I think lastly is just having something for yourself, because I think with social media, so much of us are putting so much of ourselves out there, and my platform specifically is so very authentically me. Like, I don't plan ahead with my posts. Like, I don't think about anything besides the post that I'm writing at all. And my stories too. Like, I get on my stories however I look at that very moment.
We just need to reference Lauren's laundry piles, which just made my life. I was like,
they're here.
I know. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see. But basically, explain the laundry pile, because I was like, oh my goodness, yes, I relate to this.
I am the worst at putting away my laundry. And I think that that's a form of my authenticity online and offline. My friends know it in real life, and they know it online now. But I think that we are so wrapped up in that perfect workout photo with our great background and our clean mid-century modern home that's all neutral colors and all that, that we try to pretend that we don't have laundry piles in the corner, and we try to pretend that we don't have dishes that maybe need to get done. And maybe some people don't. I know that my Aunt Kathy does not have laundry piles ever, but I am not her, and I do have probably a constant laundry mountain somewhere lurking in the background. Every picture you see of me, there's probably unfolded laundry at my house. So I wanted to put that out there for other people. And the amount of people who sent me their hilarious laundry setups was everything. I screenshotted so many of them, and I didn't even share them. I just wanted to go back and laugh at, like, literally people just like sitting on top of their laundry that's on their bed, people saying that they push it over and sleep next to it, like all these things. And I'm like, that's real life. That's what it means to be a human, even when you're home 24/7. Today in 2020, you still can't put your laundry away.
Oh, well, we've had to schedule in some time to clean this flat because it's got pretty neglected in the last few weeks. And we're like, we need to clean this place. Like we talking, yeah, like after this is done, I was like, I need to go and do the dishwasher because it's all piled up. And yeah, like that is real life. And so I appreciated it. And I love following people who are just literally themselves and yeah, aren't trying to be anything they're not. I love that.
Oh, yeah. I think that it takes way too much energy for me to be anyone but myself.
Yes, I mean, and I mean, just to link it back to what you're saying about diet culture and its influence in like literally was a tool for you to like try to not literally be yourself. And I think that's what it is for so many of us. It's like I think it's like it's linked. It's like the same of being able to just be completely in your body as it is the same as like being able to share your laundry, being able to share the messy things, to just be like, yeah, so this is me and that's okay. And I think it's that and it might not seem like a vulnerable thing to share your laundry pile, but I also think that it kind of is, to be like, yeah, that's me and that's okay. And I think we need more of that in the world. We need more of people just being unapologetically themselves. And I think part of the reason we push back against diet culture, we work to dismantle it, and is because we want people to be unapologetically themselves, and we want people to have the headspace, have the capacity to just be their full selves. And with that full self, you can do amazing things. And I always say, like, people have so much potential to fulfill. And our brains are being consumed by something that if we let go of it, like, we could make serious change in the world, huge impact, if we had that headspace back.
Yes, absolutely. I think that the reason that I've had so much connection and so much joy and the ability to do my job is because I allowed myself to have that space, and I allowed myself to be this very flawed human being that I am, that's ever changing and throwing mini tantrums and lying on the floor and not putting her laundry away, but also, teaching great classes and collaborating with people like you and doing things that are really exciting. Both of those both of those sides are so much like of the human experience, and I feel like we can't just show one and completely neglect the other.
Exactly. Lauren, it's been such a pleasure to chat with you today. I feel like we could even continue for another hour and a half.
Part 2 coming soon.
We will have to do it. Where can people find you? Where can people find your classes? What's the best way to find out? Because I mean, the best thing about doing it online is international, baby. You can get people from all over the world.
I know, and I've had some, and it's amazing.
Well, I need to do one. I need to just work out the time, and then I need to come do it.
You can find me at laurenleavellfitness.com, which is my website. That's where you would register for classes. There's a work with me tab and everything. It's pretty simple. It's a very simple website because I created it, and we just talked about how I don't have time for any of that. And then if you want to follow my laundry adventures, my failed cooking adventures, I've recently been hanging out with my friend's chickens. All of that is on Instagram at Lauren Leavell Fitness. And yeah, those are the two main spaces that I'm occupying. My classes are on Zoom, and looking forward in the next couple of weeks to some pre-recorded content for folks who can't get there at a certain time to be able to experience my classes. You won't be getting called out by name, maybe. I won't be like, yeah, bring it. But I will be like that. It'll just be like nobody's name because you'll be bringing it yourself. But so that's coming soon, and hopefully that'll carry folks through the summer, especially the people who are not going to be able to or interested in returning to the studio.
Awesome. I'll link all those below. Have an awesome day. Thank you so much. Yeah, I can't wait for people to listen to this. So thank you so much.
Yay. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
And if you did enjoy listening to this episode, make sure you use the hashtag #TrainHappyPodcast, tag #TrainHappyPodcast, and yeah, let us know what you think. Goodbye, everyone.